Alright, in this video we're going to talk about the green cards in OP-05. We talked about the red one, now green. Once again, I gotta explain, this is a crude translation from the Japanese version of the website because the Asian one version of the website isn't updated yet. But we do have the proper translations based on the talented translators over on the Discord, so I'll refer to that if I need to. So we talked about the leaders, you can check it out in the previous video, but now let's talk about Virgo. 3 cost 4000 power, counter 1000. Dawn 1 when attacking, KO up to 1 character with a cost of 3 or less in the opponent that's rested in the opponent's side of the field. So we've seen characters like this that is determined by having a rested character on the opponent's side of the field, and it's 3 or less. They are better removal, but green doesn't really have a lot of removal. You can use this for sure. I just don't think it's super strong because you need to have 1 Dawn attached to Virgo. You need something to be rested, and you need that rested character to be cost 3 or less. So there's just a lot of hoops to jump through that I feel like people are just going to skip over this card and just, use their leader to attack instead. Still, I think that people might try it out. So we got to wait and see. But Virgo, there you go. And then we have Queen. I don't think the name is Queen. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. It's crude translations. Anyway, 2 cost 2000 power, counter 1000, and has blocker. So, besides being in love with Frankie, Senior Pink, it has blocker. So that's great. Gladius, 5 cost 6000 power, counter 1000. Activate main. You can put this character into rest. So rest this character. Put up to one of your opponent's cost 3 or less character into rest. So obviously this works well with Virgo. You can rest something that's 3 or less, and then attack with Virgo and KO it. Great for getting by blockers. The only reason is it's not like when attacking you have to rest Gladius to use the ability. It's repeated. That's the great thing about it, but I don't think that it's gonna see a lot of play unless the meta game calls for it. Because right now there's a lot of 4 cost, 5 cost characters that run around, and you may not be able to have a good character target with Gladius's ability. So I don't think it's an absolute staple. People might try it out, but more often than not, people are just gonna pass it. Then we got Asyrafchazz. Not sure if it's the right name, I'm sorry. 4 cost 4000 power, counter 1000. The thing is, I do recognize these characters. I just can't remember the names off the top of my head. I'm so sorry. But I know he's from the Bellamy Pirates. So its ability is Dawn 1 when attacking once per turn. You can put one of your characters with a cost of 3 or more to rest and activate this character. So it means to restand this character. So you attack with it. You get 1 Dawn attached, so it's 5k attack. You rest something like a Pika. You restand this and you can attack again. The fact that you had to rest another character makes it not as good as something like a Basil Hawkins that does essentially almost the same thing, just a little bit differently. So I don't think people are gonna play this card because I feel like I want to be attacking with, like, the reason why I mentioned Pika is Pika can restand itself at the end of the turn, which is great for protecting it. But I would rather just have 2 attacks rather than like double attack or 2 attacks with Asyrafchazz. I'd rather have 2 different attacks. So I feel like it's going to get passed over. Not that powerful of a card. I might be wrong. But let's move on to Trog Law. 1 cost 2000 power, counter 1000. Activate main. You can place this character in the trash. Rest up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less. This, because it's so cheap, because it's so, like, it's only 1 cost. And you can play it out, trash it, rest something that's 3 or less. Could be good. Don't think that it's going to be, because you have to give up this law. Other than that, it's just a counter 1000 in your hand. There are, like, even like the plus 2k counter Ezo does a better job at it than this law. So I don't see this being played at all, honestly. I don't think it's strong enough right now in the current meta game. So people are going to pass over it for sure. Yeah, I just don't see this being played at all. Then we got Flamingo, the green Dofi, 1 cost 2000 power, counter 1000. Yeah, so the proper translation is KO up to one of your opponent's vested characters with a cost of 2 or less. So yeah, same thing. It just jumps through a lot of hoops. You got to play out Flamingo. You got to make sure that's a character that's vested and a cost of 2 or less. There might be a lot of targets, the opposing, like in the mirror, maybe you can get rid of Sugars. This would be a really good addition to that. Maybe in that case, yeah, I can see Flamingo being like a tech card in the deck, maybe like 1 or 2 copies that you're going to target either the searcher or you're going to target the sugar against the opposing like green purple Doflamingo matchup. Yeah, I can see this being played over like the law, which just rests something. This actually KOs it, so I can see that being played. Maybe even like a green blacklist using Isho as the leader. You could reduce something as long as it's rested. You can reduce the cost, and then for one cost you can KO something. So yeah, this may see play. There are situations where this would see play for sure. Just gotta see what makes it work. And then whoa, we got a grown up Dofi, 7 cost, 8,000 power. When opponent attacks once per turn, so when your opponent's attacking, you pay 1 Dawn, vest up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 6 or less. This I see being played. Like maybe in green purple Dofi, you have 2 Dawns up, you have a treble on the field, you have Doflamingo on the field, you can just rest one, and then make sure one of your opponent's characters don't attack, and it's 6 or less. So there's a lot of targets right now in the meta game with Doflamingo that Doflamingo can like essentially affect. So this is really good. However, it is like a 7 cost, so you probably in green purple Dofi on 7 you can just play it down and then prevent one of your opponent's characters from attacking. So yeah, I can see people trying this out. It is a good stat line after all. 7 cost, 8,000 power means it's good enough to be like people will play a vanilla 7 cost, 9,000 power. So why not play this? I can see this being played. Yeah, for sure. All right. Don Quixote, Rosante. This is a strong one. So, okay, 2 cost, 1,000 power, counter 1,000. It has blocker. And during the opponent's turn, if your rested character is KO'd, place this character in the trash instead. So essentially, Rosante, once again, sacrificing himself to protect or, you know, to let one of your vested characters survive. The first thing that came into my mind when I saw this was protecting your Eustace kit. Not from, you know, attacks, sure, like from attacks, you can block with it if you want to. But if your opponent, like, you know, uses the good old Otama jet pistol or uses some other effects to get rid of Eustace kit, you can instead KO this Rosante. And for it to be a 2 cost blocker, which, you know, doesn't matter if it's 1,000 or 2,000 power, it's just there to block and die. This is really good. And I can see a blue-green Corazon or Rosinante's leader deck that utilizes 8 cost kit from OP-01 and uses discard to protect it. There may be something there. Someone needs to cook it. I've seen a list that some Japanese players have played. Looks really strong. And it's a blocker that can be used. It's a low cost blocker. I feel like this card's gonna be great. It doesn't protect your kid or other rested characters from bottom deck effects. So in that situation, this is just a normal blocker. But even if it's just a normal blocker, you would still play it, I would say. So yeah, Rosante, great. It's a rare for a reason. Now we move on to Buffalo. 3 cost, 4,000 power, counter 1,000. When attacking once per turn, if you have 2 or more characters in rest, so if you have 2 or more rested characters, restand up to 1 cost 1 character in rest. So I believe it's restand one of your 1 cost characters that is in rest. So essentially, yeah, Buffalo works well with Baby 5. You can attack with Buffalo. You can search with Baby 5, attack with Buffalo, restand Baby 5, search again with Baby 5. So that's great. I feel like the effect is too niche to make it like a staple card. I don't think that this will be something that people are like, oh, I'm definitely going to play Buffalo in my decks. No, I don't think that's the case. I feel like it's just going to be, it's just underpowered for me. And the fact that you have to attach Dawn, at least 1 Dawn to Buffalo to attack into a leader, you know, it's different because like Rizzo draws you a card. So there's immediate value and you can use it in conjunction with searches. This just makes you restand your searches or restand your sugar. Oh no, sugar is 2 costs. So it's only searches, like 1 cost searches, and so they can search again. Maybe if you want advantage that way, but I really don't see this card being played at all. It's just very narrow, and most of the time, if you don't have your searches, it's just a 3 cost 4,000. No one's gonna play that. Alright, next up is the super rare Pika. 4 cost 6,000 power, and at the end of your turn, you may pay 1 to restand this character. Then once per turn, if this character is KO'd, instead you can put up to one of your 3 cost or higher characters other than Pika into rest. So instead of being KO'd, you can rest something like a 3 cost Flamingo blocker, a 10 cost Dofi to instead protect Pika. I've been playing a lot of blue-green Corazon and I love Pika in that list because you can protect it not only with your leader, but with Pika's own innate ability. At the end of the turn, you can restand it. So you can play it in green-purple Dofi. You can play it in blue-green Corazon. Pika is great. I feel like this is, you know, a staple for a reason because it's just hard to get rid of. It's sticky, and there are many ways you can protect it. This is definitely going to be a staple in green decks, especially in Doflamingo decks, I feel. And yeah, I do think that this is a strong card. It's just a very sticky mid-range threat that your opponent has to probably find a way to get rid of. Unless you're playing blue, then you can just send it to the bottom of the deck. But other than that, it's great. Alright, next up we got Baby 5. 1 cost 1000 power with counter 1000. On your main thing, you may pay 1. You can rest this character up to one of your character with the Don Quixote Pirates trait. You can play out a cost 2 or less from your hand. So for example, you just pay 1, rest Baby 5. You can play out Sugar. You can play out like a Trafalgar Law blocker. You can play out the 1 cost Dofi, the 1 cost Trafalgar Law. So yeah, there's a few things that you can play out with Baby 5. But however, would you want to? That's the thing. Like, do you want to dedicate maybe a couple of slots just for Baby 5 to be able to do that? When like just having an extra Dawn, you can play out a Sugar. I guess if there's like a small weenie version, then you can spam out characters with Baby 5, but I don't see that being played at all. So yeah, this is something that people will kind of look over or overlook or like just pass on, and I perfectly understand. But let's talk about Baby 5. Best card, 1 cost, 1000 power, counter 1000. You may pay 1, then rest Baby 5, and then you can look at the top 5 cards of your deck, search a card with Don Quixote Pirates, reveal up to the card, and add to your hand. It's the same as Jewelry Bonnie, just with Don Quixote Pirates. So you can search Baby 5 as well. So that's great. There's so many things in the Don Quixote Pirates that you can search, and Baby 5 is an absolute staple if you're playing that deck. And in Corazon, it's even better because you can protect Baby 5 with your leader that has blocker. So sometimes you want to keep searchers around, you might as well just take the life. It's essentially drawing you 1 card. And you can still keep your searcher around, so you get like that card advantage. That's great. Baby 5, absolute staple. And next up we move on to Bellamy. 3 cost 5000 power with counter 1000. This is a vanilla. You can play it if you want to. There are other slots, but I can see some people just, you know, if you just want to fill up your deck, put in Bellamy. Great artwork though. Alright, next up is Monet. 3 cost 1000 power with counter 1000 as blocker. And when blocking, you can set up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less to rest. So this is great. This is, I would feel like a blocker that Corazon or Doflamingo wants to use, or any green leader for that matter, because you can just, you know, block with Monet, make sure one of the cost 4 or less characters rest so that they can't attack you. Great against Zoro, great against Red Green Law. I can see this being the blocker of choice for the green decks. It's like, you know, that 4 cost Film Uta, except you don't have to do on -1, and you know, fix like 4 cost or lower, but still, there are targets for this. It's great. Okay, so now we're moving on to the green events. Only the winners, right? A 0 cost event card, you can discard 1 card from your hand, up to 1 card from your leader or character gets plus 3000 power during this battle. So it's yeah, it's your standard 0 cost counter. You discard a card plus 3k. We've seen that before in other colors, so now green has it. And the trigger ability is rest up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less. I can see this being played if you want to, depending on which kind of counter you want to put in your deck building. Yeah, people will definitely try this card out as well. So next is Buto Stone? I don't know. Okay, like the name, I'm sorry, this is crudely translated, but we just look at the effect. So it's a 2 cost counter, plus 4k power for your leader and up to one of your character during this battle. After that, you can discard a card from your hand. If you do, activate up to 3 Dawn. Trigger, rest the opponent's leader up to 1 character with a cost of 3 or less. Yeah, this card I don't feel like it's really good at all. The fact that you had to discard a card to get 3 Dawn back, There are better 2-cost plus 4K counters out there. You know, Pang Gibson, the new ones from OP-04, all do a better job at, you know, doing something else, because you don't necessarily want to activate 3 Dawn unless you have a lot of counters in hand. Most of the time, you're just going to use one 2-cost 4K counter a turn, and then that's it. And most of the time, you have blockers as well. So I don't see this being played at all. And if you do, maybe it works for you, but it's just not strong enough. All right, then Better Baton Meteor. It's a 2-cost counter. So 2-cost counter plus 4K to your leader or one character for this battle. After that, KO up to one of your opponent's character with a cost of 3 or less that is rested. This I can see being played because it is a semi-removal. Yes, it does affect like 3 costs or lower, and it has to be rest, but against something like Zoro, against something like Red-Green Law, even like the new Red-Purple Law, who uses the Purple Law Searcher that's 3 costs, you can use it to get rid of them after they have attacked. So I do see a place for this card in the current metagame. Depending if red decks still run amok, they'll still be good. Oh, and the trigger ability is KO up to one of your opponent's character with a cost of 5 or less that's in rest mode. Also very relevant in a metagame. Definitely, I'll play this over the stone. So yeah, this card is great. Can't wait to try it out. But now we move on to Birdcage. So it's a 5-cost stage card. If your leader is the Don Quixote of Flamingo, all characters with a cost of 5 or less cannot be active during each other's refresh phase. So you're essentially locking down everything that's 5 or less, which is, you know, quite strong. Imagine if your opponent like goes really wide with Zoro, like a lot of 1-cost characters, and they finish a big attack, you play down Birdcage, all of them will just stay rested. And then at the end of your turn, if you have 10 Dawn on your field, KO all characters with a cost of 5 or less that's in rest, then put this stage card into the trash. So it's immediately like a board wipe on a stage card. I feel like there's a place for Birdcage in a certain metagame, because even against yellow, like you have your so many like Perisperos, your 4-cost 5,000 characters against Bello Betty, for example, a 4-cost 5,000 power characters. There's a lot of them. Imagine they've gone through a huge attack, and then you play down Birdcage, and none of their characters can withstand. That, my friends, is powerful. I'm not sure how many copies this will end up being. I can easily see like Dofi decks or green decks like slotting 2 of Birdcage into their decks just as a tech card against, you know, like the Bello Bettys, the yellow decks, or like red decks, and then just have like a, once you hit 10 Dawn, boom, hit the explosion button, everything just gets blown up. Yeah, I can definitely see this being played. I'm excited to see this in like a tournament level. I hope that it gets played. I feel like it's strong. I don't know whether people would spend 5 Dawn just to lock down a board, because the leader, your opponent's leader, can still be active and attack again. But if you can get like the full effect, like utilize it to the fullest extent, like, you know, 5 characters on your opponent's side of the field rested, cannot be active again, then whew, you're feeling good. So yeah, Birdcage, excited to see where this goes. And I think that's the end of the blue cards, the green cards. We're going to move on to the blue cards in the next video. So look out for that. I will be opening up a box of OP-05 on, you know, the video should be out on release date on 26th of August. And I'll be doing a live stream on the morning of 26th August, 8 to 9 AM Singapore time, plus 8 GMT. So if you can join me then, let's open a case together and see what we get. But until then, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.